Hey, guys, it is Alison. I am the host of your show, Alison Answers Mission Awake. I cannot wait to sit down with you today and go over how we are going to crush the mediocrity in your life that has been plaguing our society since the beginning of time. I cannot wait to have a real deal conversation that includes intelligence, fun, excitement, and real actionable steps to make a real difference in the life that you're living now and making it into something you can be damn proud of and excited to live. Sit down, put on your damn seatbelt, and get ready for the ride of your life. Hey, guys, how are you today? It is Alison from Alison Answers, and I, of course, have a great guest on today. He's going to surprise you because I'm going to showcase how to always be a novice and the power of believing in yourself. But let me do a little formal introduction of this young man. He's an amazing dude, and I have more to say about him after this intro. So Dalton is an entrepreneur, and I'm reading this to you because this is on his unbelievable website, which I'm letting them know how good it is because your website is amazing. It really is cool. Dalton is an entrepreneur in financial services and a competitive physique athlete. Listen to that shit. Okay. He started his business in 2016 with no network, no money, no experience, and $100 cheap ass suit. It's not here. The odds stacked against him, but he put his head down and got to work. His extreme self-discipline and vision of the future has helped him place in the top 0.5%. It says on his website, 1%, not true. 0.5%. Is that the right way to say that mathematically? 0.5%? Is that correct? Okay. 0.5% of financial service producers in the United States. Okay. Now, what I want you to understand, this guy is still in his 20s. He resides in Shenandoah Valley with his wife, Chelsea. And when he is not working in his business or at the gym, he is motivating others to get the most out of their life and perform at their highest potential. What I want to say to you about Dalton before we dive into the conversation is prior to any podcast, I ask people to explain some things. And there's some stuff that he explained in the notes prior to this that really makes him stand out. And I really want to talk about that before he even shares anything about himself. Some of the things that he talked about are being so driven, putting his head down, and being willing to not do the other things, I think, that other people are doing at his age, and creating an unbelievable understanding of his field. And his humility is incredible because I just witnessed that in our conversation to this show. I also just want to mention that he and I are in the same group, Arate. If you guys know me, you know that I'm an Arate, and that means that he's a top performer. That means that he is one of the people that was vetted hard to be in a group of people who want to change the face of business across the world. And this young man is doing it. So I want to dive in with Dalton, but I'm just going to say one of the things that he said that I think is incredible. Is it okay with you that I read this, or is it private?
No, that's fine.
Yeah. He said, I started my financial business at 23. And then I explained all that. No money, no network, no experience. And he describes that he had many obstacles and setbacks, but I have wanted few things more than a successful business and financial security for my family. So I kept my head down and never accepted less than 100% from myself and have built what I have so far today. I am in the top 0.5% of all financial service producers in the US. He also describes relating to being depressed, feeling anxious, having tough times, fear, complacency, and anger, and not believing that, you know, the concept of fear and anger of not having more in his life. I actually laughed when he said that because I'm like, not having more in his life. He's in his 20s. Like, it's so great what he has. But what I want to point out is that driving force inside of this guy is, I can hear that you don't settle. And it's incredible. So what I want to ask you, Dalton, today is what is the backstory? Like, how did you begin and how did you get here over these 29 years? How did you arrive where you are?
I mean, if we're going back 29 years, I grew up in a pretty normal family. But I would say, we were middle class, but we were not like upper middle class. I mean, we definitely were month to month, paycheck to paycheck. And I have an older brother, and, we played sports and ate everything in the house. And so I can only imagine that things were just really tight. But I never went without it as a kid. And I saw my dad and my mom practice a lot of discipline and work really hard to provide for my brother and I growing up the best life that they possibly could. We certainly didn't have everything. We didn't have the nicest things, but we made it, and it was a really good childhood. I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I learned the value of not having anything really handed to you. I never witnessed my mom or dad have anything handed to them. I was fat as a kid. So it was actually due to an inhaler that I was taking, but from probably second grade to, I think it was like 200 pounds in sixth grade. So right around the time, your body starts changing and stuff like that, I looked a way that was very unsatisfying to me, and I would get picked on, and I really just, I had no identity. I certainly didn't want to be the fat, funny guy. That was my default, because that was my way of coping with being very insecure, was just making people laugh. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to be physically attractive and socially attractive. And so, towards the end of middle school and going into high school, I started dieting. I lost the weight, and I had a normal look. And I really focused in school. I never made a B in high school. Actually, I had a 4.3. So I made like over A's, I guess, and had like extra credits and stuff. And so, I noticed that I had a strong discipline when I was in middle school and high school, because, like in math was one of my strong subjects. I would stay after class, or I would go into school 30 minutes early to meet with the calculus teacher to go through the 2 problems that I get. And the answers were in the back of the book. I just wouldn't let myself look in the back of the book. I would solve it myself before I would look in the back. And so I knew that there was something there, because none of my peers were doing that. They didn't care if they even did the homework. They certainly looked in the back of the book. So I knew that there was something there, but I was really too young to know what it was. And so when I went to college, I went to Bridgewater College. It's near James Madison University. So Bridgewater, Harrisonburg, Virginia, still in the Valley. And it's a small D3 liberal arts school. And I majored in biology. So my brother has a biology major. He works in water treatment. And I thought I might want to do medicine or something biology related or STEM related, because I was always really interested in that. I was really smart. And so, and kind of to our point, as we were talking before this, that was my mediocrity thing. That was like, okay, I'll go to college, I'll get a job, I'll make 50 grand a year and retire. And I was actually excited about that. Society had made me excited about that. And I was like, great, that's what I'm going to do. And there's nothing wrong with that life, but I think that there are a lot of people who there's another life that they can absolutely live if they open their mind up to it. And I just didn't know any better at that point. So I go to college, and I wish I had met my wife at this point, because she's amazing. She's my best friend, biggest supporter. But I went through a series of bad relationships or whatever, and the self-consciousness came back. I wasn't fat at this point, but I still didn't have an identity. So I got into working out, and my body responded really well the first year or two that I worked out, like really well. And so I started actually competing in like physique and bodybuilding contests and stuff like that, in addition to doing college. And so I decided not to go to med school. I wanted to choose a minor of nutrition and wellness, because I was like, if I could have the bio major, nutrition and wellness minor, I'm going to learn a lot of stuff that I can apply to my own bodybuilding career and hobby. But B, I might be able to be a personal trainer or go into the fitness industry. And that was really hot at the time. So that's what I'm going to do. So I got my personal training certification. And when I graduated, I started personal training at a local gym. And that was really my first real job. I mean, I had some side jobs in college, but that was my first real job. And a couple things happened. So I started personal training and I was like, okay, what's my salary? And they were like, you don't have one. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, how do I get paid? And they were like, when you get clients and you do sessions. And I'm like, okay. And I wanted the job and I was confident that I could find clients, but I was like, I'm going to have to be a salesperson. Like, that's basically what I am. And so I've never sold anything in my life. And I just remember the first ever fitness assessment, which is basically a sales pitch that I did. The guy signed up for like a $5,000 PT package. And I was like, well, that was easy. I would just talk to people and be like, hey, based on your look and like your goals are really realistic. I think if we put together a plan and we meet twice a week and then we track that plan, I think within maybe 3 to 4 months, we could hit that goal. I would just want to be able to, oversee that plan for you. Obviously there would be a fee for that. So I don't know what your financial situation looks like, but I'd love to work with you. And they were just like, yeah, sure. And I'm like, okay. And it was like, I didn't know that I was selling. I was just trying to get clients or whatever. So I started getting a ton of clients, and the guy who was running the training department at the time got transitioned to another gym, and I got promoted. So I'm 21, 22 years old. I've been there 6 months. I've already got promoted to where I'm running the fitness department. So there's like 5 other trainers, and I do all the sales. So I'm distributing clients to the different trainers, and I get to keep my best clients. And then that gym gets sold. So I transfer to a big gym in Charlottesville and immediately go in as the head trainer over the whole training department. And same thing, doing a lot of PT sales. But I was driving probably 2 hours a day, an hour up and an hour back, because Charlottesville was farther away at the time. I was burnt out. And I started looking at my income, and I'm like, I'm making like 30 grand. Like, I had a 4.3 in high school. Like, my freshman year, I partied a lot, so I didn't have a 4.0 in college, but I had a 4.0 from my sophomore year on. And I'm like, I shouldn't be making 30 grand. Yeah. I'm more valuable than that. Something's wrong, I think. So I tried to set up my own online personal training for people outside of the area. It wasn't competing with the gym, but I tried to set it up, and I made a website and everything. And the gym owners didn't like that. So they squashed it. And I was just like, okay, I don't like being controlled. I knew that about myself at that point. And I was like, if this is what being an employee is, I'm going to be a terrible employee in my life. So I should probably work for myself. So I had this client who was in real estate, and I knew she made a lot of money, and she would always work out in the middle of the day. She seemed to have all the time in the world. And I was just like, she's not smarter than I am. She's not more hardworking than I am. Look, she's working out in the middle of the day. She doesn't work harder than I am. Like, I should be able to do something like that. And she seems to have a lot more responsibility too. She sells people's houses. And so I talked to her about it, and we kind of talked about different industries that I might do well in. And at the time I was reading a lot of like Tony Robbins, and I was into like wealth building and stuff, just personally, just fascinating to me. So I was like, I think I might put myself out there and maybe try to be like a financial advisor or something. I don't have a degree in it, but like maybe I could interview somewhere, and I'm really good at sales. And so I could sell myself, and we'll see. And so I came across the Anchor Group, which is where I'm at, interviewed, and it was basically they did the same interview I'm sure they do with everybody else. I've been in a lot of those interviews on both ends, and so he's basically like, yeah, if you work really hard, you can make like 60 grand or 80 grand or something your first year. And I was like, well, I'm making 30 now, so yep, I'll take the job. You tell me what to do, and then I'll just go do that, and then I'll make 80 grand, and there we go. And he was like, okay. And so I passed the test super quick, and got a lot of my licenses and stuff really quick, and then just kind of started. And my first year I made like 124 and some change. And I just like from the first year, it was just like, boom. I loved it. I loved everything about the industry. I got it. Like my mind, my creativity, my skill sets, my fast pace, like it was like I came out of the womb designed for this industry.
Wow.
And I just smoked it. And from there, there's been some highs and lows, and certainly the first probably 6 months or a year building it was really stressful, really tough, because I didn't have anything to start. But I've just kind of just kept my head down and just plodded along and made the right strategic decisions. I was never in a hurry. I've brought the wrong people on. I've brought the right people on. I've made great choices and poor choices, and I've just kind of plodded along month by month. I track everything. I do every day, and I keep those for records, so I can go back 3 years and tell you what I did on a specific day. And I just use all that data to just build on itself. And then, within 4 years, I was placing in the top. Our broker dealers got probably 1,000 advisors. So after my 4th year, I think I was number 4 or 5 or 6. And I was just top 5, top 10 in the country every year since then. Still top 10 right now. So, just looking back on it, it seems like kind of a blur, but I could see that there was like, I've always had this just take no shit type of discipline about me. I tell my wife this story, like being in high school and where we were in computer class, and it was like the last week, and we had 2 more things. Like I would keep the syllabus with me. So we had 2 more things we still had to do. And I could tell this teacher was just kind of goofing off, and she wasn't going to get to anything that day. And I just raised my hand. Everybody's laughing in the class, and I just raised my hand. She's like, yeah. And I was like, are we actually going to do anything today? Because I'm about to get the hell out of here, because I got other homework and stuff I got to do, and this just ain't productive. And everybody thought I was just a dick. But I was like, well, like, I'm here so I can progress in my life. If I had a choice, I wouldn't be here. So I'm not here to laugh and goof around. If we're not going to learn anything, I'm just going to leave the class. And that was 15-year-old, 16-year-old me. So I've always been this person. It just didn't, I just had to meet the right people and be open-minded and chase the right opportunities for it to really show itself.
Where on God's green earth did you get that? Because, I don't know if you realize, do you realize everything that you just said? I was looking while you were talking. I was trying to not let you know, but I wanted to write a couple of things down, because you were saying so many important things that you probably don't even realize it. You're a very unique individual. I was saying to Dalton prior to coming on that he is the 4-minute mile. And I want to just shout out to younger people. I don't care, teens, anyone in their 20s. When you hear people say I'm too young, or people don't take me seriously, or, all of that, like this man right here, you can hear the tenacity, you can hear. But what I loved, one thing you said, you saw that real estate person and you said, she's not smarter than me. I could do that. And you instead of thinking, oh, she's, being jealous or whatever, you're like, I can do that. Like you see someone's success and you say, I can do it. where did you get this confidence? And I want to know also because you also, I'm going to say one other thing, because you said so much meat that I just wanted to comment, but I held my tongue. That basically you also were describing that being fat and the insecurity. And there was a few other things that you said. You wish you met your wife earlier, and that you had these not great relationships. And all I could think was that was your schooling. You have all this education that's formal, but then this other education of like your response to adversity, of feeling badly about yourself, was to change it and make it better, to create something else. And I'm thinking you're probably better off that you didn't meet your wife then, because who knows, you needed to go through that difficulty prior to meeing her, probably, which is a gift.
Yeah.
So, okay. And now just tell us where you got this.
Well, I guess to make kind of a two-part response, I mean, most of the hard lessons I've learned in my life, I tell my wife this all the time. We talk about like DARE when you were in elementary school. DARE was completely ineffective because people are going to try drugs. That's just what kids do. They're going to go out, they're going to try drugs. They're not cognizant of at the time of how serious it is. They're 8 years old. You know, when they're 18, their hormones are different, right? Like they have different drivers in their life. They're just going to drink alcohol and do drugs. That's what people do. But there are some people who listen to DARE and they're like, okay, and they never touch it for life because of DARE. And they're just that's not me. You can tell me not to do something, and the only way for me to learn is to just do it and get knocked out. And then I'm like, all right, won't do that. I mean, that's just how I've learned it in business, in life. That's how I've learned every hard lesson. So I'm I would say a mix of naive and stubborn in that sense, where like, you know, sometimes I try something and it doesn't work, and that's how I learn. Even though someone wiser than me told me not to, I figured I would try it for myself. So, you know, I agree. I'm a much wiser person at 29, way wiser than I was even at 28 or 27 or 26, because I'm always I'm a novice. Like I am a permanent novice. I'm always learning the wrong ways to do stuff or the right ways to do stuff. And I'm open-minded and open to the correction. I'm not cocky to the point where you can't tell me anything. You can tell me a lot. I can always say no, or I can always say, yeah, it's not going to work for me, but I'll listen. And then the other thing is, you know, growing up, my dad was he was very proud of himself, because my dad worked very hard for everything that he ever had in his life. He didn't graduate high school. He went in the military. He was in foster care growing up. The military gave him skills to go into the workforce, and he got a job. And from that job, he got a pension 30 years later, and he was able to provide for my brother and I. And I just watched my dad just run himself into the ground for 20 years to just raise us kids. And like, you know, I can remember anytime I would put someone on a pedestal or talk highly about someone I looked up to, my dad would just have this attitude about like, that's nothing, man. They put their pants on like everybody else. They eat the same food everybody else eats. They breathe the same air everybody else breathes. There ain't nothing about them that's. And in my head, that always stuck, because I would see somebody who was making $2 million, $3 million a year that was personal training, and yeah, congrats, they make a lot of money. They're not a better person than me. They're not smarter than me. I mean, maybe at how to invest in X investment that I'm not invested in. Yeah, they might have more knowledge than me, but in just general overall IQ, no way. I was extremely brilliant in high school and college. There's no way. And they're not a harder worker than me. And so they're older than me, so I'm more able-bodied. If anything, I have an advantage. So like,
you do.
I don't even see, you know, why I should be jealous of this person. What I'm going to do is talk to them and extract all the information that they have that I don't. And then I'm just going to go use that information to build an empire. And that was just you know, and I still do that. I still seek out people who I know way more than I do. And I'm not afraid to admit when someone's better than me at something. I mean, so I don't know. I think some of it I got from my dad, and I think some of it I just got from my personality and just being stubborn at the wrong times and learning hard life decisions.
I think that you really, there's not anything on earth that could ever hold you back. And you already know that. It's so obvious. And I'm just wondering, what would you say to someone in their 20s or an adolescent who just, let's say they don't have even the same drive, or they didn't have like that foundational experience with their dad? Because I think there's a lot of that where people just feel lost and they don't know, they don't have confidence. Like, what would you say?
Well, I will say that the 20s is kind of a split generation. So I'm 29. I'll be 30 in 2 months, and I'm holding on to that 2 months. There's nothing wrong with being 30. I'm looking forward to it. So I vividly remember being a kid and picking up a dial-up phone, landline phone, and calling my friend next door to see if I could go play. We didn't have a computer, and we didn't have cell phones. I vividly remember that in my life, and playing Nintendo 64. But I also vividly remember having a smartphone and being able to do anything instantaneously with instant gratification. Shortly after my generation, so these are the kids that are probably, shortly after my generation, 25 and under maybe, these kids, as soon as they were aware, 4 or 5 years old, their family had computers. You know, there were probably starting to be at least flip phones, like Nokia flip phones and stuff like that. I think that a lot of the younger generation, you know, we live in a world where there's just immediate gratification. And even in our school systems, it's like you can't discipline kids too hard, or, you know, there's not like, I feel like our generations are becoming a little bit more reliant and a little bit more softer. I see people like, I'll be like, hey, can you run this calculation? They'll pick their phone up and I'm like, all right, it's multiplication, but okay, go ahead. I took my AP calculus exam with no calculator. Like every problem was like an entire piece of paper. And I'm like, all right, it's actually like 7 times 5, but I'll just go ahead and write 35. So that's scary. But so I think that it's not entirely their fault. They've grown up with things coming very easy to them and being very instant to them. But when I see a lot of young people come in like to my industry, what I notice is that they can't handle the confrontation.
Yes.
Because you're used to social media where you can't see somebody's face. Mm-hmm. But when you're in a big boy conversation or a big girl conversation with another adult who's twice your age, you need to be able to stand strong in a conversation and educate that person on what they need to do. If you show signs that you're immature, that you can't handle the conversation, you are toast in this industry or any business. Mm-hmm. And so I never really had that. I grew up, and I was fortunate enough to grow up and be raised where I learned how to communicate with people face to face or on a phone or whatever. So I don't really take rejection in this super crazy negative way. And I think it's hard that a lot of younger individuals, they do. They also expect results to come really easy. I think that number one mistake I see a lot of young advisors make, if they come into our business or any business and they make, like, could be real estate agents, and they make $100,000 for the first time. Well, next thing you know, they post a picture on Facebook. I did a thing today, and it's a Porsche. And it's like, yeah, you did a dumbass thing, and you went and bought an $80,000 car when you just made $100,000. Spoiler alert, in the business world, $100,000, not a lot of money. Okay. That's broke money in the business world. Yep. So I still drive a Nissan Rogue, and I make way over $100,000.
Yes.
I ain't even sell that Rogue. I like it. It looks fine, and it gets me from point A to point B. I'm going to invest in my business, in other assets, so that I can be more free and I can grow quicker and I can beat people like you who waste their money and take the market share. I would tell the younger generation that, college doesn't have to be the answer. Getting a 9-to-5 job doesn't have to be the answer. If you want to be a doctor or a dentist or a teacher, you got to go to college and you're going to work a 9-to-5 job. But you'll have stability. There's a need for those careers. The benefits are great. A lot of them have pensions. You will be perfectly fine. You'll probably never be ultra wealthy. But if that's not your goal, then great. Go be that thing and enjoy it. Enjoy your life. But if you want to make $500,000 a year, you're going to have to get into the business world and you're going to have to be extremely responsible. You're going to have to take criticism. You're going to have to be open-minded and nimble. You're going to get the crap kicked out of you on a daily basis by consumers and people who just don't care about your emotions. Like, it is tough, and it's not going to be an overnight thing. It took me, some of my best clients that I reached out to my first year in the business didn't even become clients till a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Because 90% of people like me that came into the business aren't even there in 2 years. So, I just think people expect to come in. They're like, well, Dalton, anytime I've recruited somebody younger, they're like, well, Dalton's doing this or that or whatever. So I'll just listen to him. And then in 3 years, I'll be there. Yeah. I would be like a statistical outlier that you would like. Yes. If you were doing like an actual scientific study, you would literally remove me from the study. Okay. Seriously though. Like, no, you would not use,
yeah.
And so you would remove me and you'd remove the people who were there like a month and quit. Like, you take those outliers out because they skew the data.
Yeah.
I just think that the younger generation, I didn't really answer the question well. I think the younger generation just really underestimates what it takes to be ultra successful at something. They have a really hard time valuing how much time it takes to get certain results, physical results in the gym. Or fitness is a big part of my life. And I see a lot of younger people now getting into SARMs and testosterone and stuff. And it's like, you're 20. Your testosterone is probably like 1,500. Like, why do you need to take testosterone? Oh, I know. Because you don't want to put in the work for the next 5 years. You just want to be on a pro stage next year. And it's almost like insulting, to people who like actually have felt the pain. I see a therapist every other week.
Yeah.
Because I've been on my couch in tears, like just destroyed emotionally because I'm burnt out. And I've poured my heart and soul into everything in my life, and I'm just not where I want to be. I mean, people are like, they'll work for a month and get tired. And I'm like, you don't even know.
Yeah. And
so I just think the younger generation, I think they expect things to be given because, I hear by the time I graduated high school in 2011, it was still school was challenging, and I don't think that anything was really handed out, but stories that I hear today about how the school system is or whatever, I just feel like we live in a culture where mediocrity is just like handed out. It's 100%. Just like, oh, you're having a tough time. Okay, we'll give you a break.
Yep.
And that's, in the world where you're going to college and getting the degree and getting the job that you want and chasing the career you want, that is fine. And it should be that way. But in the business world, or in the world of, I want to be competitive at something against other people who are competitive, that doesn't exist. This is the fiercest competition there is. It's a bloodbath.
You know what I love? Like you said at some point, you said, oh, I don't know if I'm answering your question. You are really answering the question, because you're bringing out like, I think a systemic problem, in our society, just in general, that is really, to me, it's frightening. Because I think that we have overemphasized comfort, because you'll say, kids or whoever, it doesn't matter, even people older, even people my age are like, well, I don't feel comfortable with that. I'm like, I feel uncomfortable. I'm like, I feel uncomfortable every day.
Yeah.
You know, it's
I have a lump in my throat of fear and adrenaline basically like all the time. Like fight or flight is like my normal operating system. Like for me, like parasympathetic is like I have to actually try to get into that.
I have to help you with that.
Well, yeah, I mean, so like, you know, but
I get you. I know what you're saying. The drive.
Yeah.
But the thing about like when you're saying that you're crying on the, you know, on the couch, because I feel, and tell me if I'm wrong, I don't know you, but what I'm hearing, and I believe this about human beings, I think we all have this unbelievable spark inside of us that's meant to go into like a flame, like huge fire. And we have a choice. We've been given a choice. Roll over and show your neck, or push through pain. And it could be all different kinds of pain. Yeah. But walk through the difficulty. Like when you say like you're a novice, I like hashtag always be a novice. You want to get anywhere in your life, be a novice. Because every time you're a novice, you don't stay a novice long. As long as you, and what I love about what you talk about, I hear you. It's like, you talk about depth.
Yes.
And staying the course, like not leaving and waiting for the bigger outcome. I heard something once, it was from a pastor of mine a long time ago. And he said, evil things are great in the beginning and get worse and worse as time goes on. And things that are great or good or loving or that are God are difficult in the beginning and get easier and easier and easier as time goes on. Yeah. And you describe that in like, even if you could say that, because you were talking about being with people who were very advanced in your field in terms of age, like length of time. Mm-hmm. And you were talking about that off camera. Do you remember? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. So I just, just you saying like that 6 years, you were saying things about like, now it's like you feel the smooth nature of your work, right? That's my words. What would you say to that?
Yeah, it is smoother. In any business, there comes this point where like you're never invincible. I don't feel. I don't know. Maybe Amazon is invincible, but like, unless you're that big, you could take a bullet that could kill you, or kill your business essentially. So when you're new and you're just trying to build things the right way, it's really important that you don't let off the gas too early, because there becomes this crossover point where, and I talk about this, like I do speaking engagements and stuff, and I talk about this, and one of them it's about fundamentals. If you look at the top performers in industries or sports, they have a very low standard deviation. Michael Jordan could play a really bad game, but a bad game for Michael Jordan was like 20 points and no rebounds. If I dropped 5 points in an NBA game, I'd be ecstatic. But that was a bad game for him, well under his scoring average. But Michael Jordan, if he has a video game ranking of 99, when he's at his best, he's a 99. But when he's at his worst, he's still like a 95. But that's because he's built those fundamentals and he's got those the process of being a top performer. He's done it so long that it's become unconscious at that point, that even when his emotions aren't in it, or even when his mind's not in it, it's all automatic. He's still doing the things that he needs to be doing to still perform better than most people who are trying hard. And so that crossover point does happen. For some people, it might be 10 or 15 years, or for some people, it might be 2 years. There's people who kill me in this business who are younger than me. But either way, once that crossover point happens, I'm not comfortable or complacent, but if I wanted to take the rest of this month off, my bills would be paid.
Yeah, got it.
That type of thing. Mm-hmm. And so I don't feel the same where I used to be like, holy crap, am I going to pay my credit card this month? Now it's like, holy crap, is my national ranking going to go from number 4 to number 5? And how am I going to explain that to my peers?
Yeah, got it.
If you're driven, you're still always going to you're going to find the things to stress about. That's what I do. And every time I level up, I'm like, all right, that's not stressful anymore. So I got to find something else now, because I don't know what to do if I don't stress about stuff. So you got to find that thing to stress about, but it beats the heck out of stressing about the other stuff, like paying bills and stuff like that. And so, it's taken me probably 5 years to hit that kind of crossover point where I know, like, okay, even if I have just a really bad year, bills are still going to get paid and I'm still going to produce at a high level in the business. So I just don't stress as much about production.
No, I'll tell you, the thing that comes to my mind is my favorite quote. People hear me say it all the time is, I lay hold of my vision. Mm-hmm. Obstacles must give way. And that's Napoleon Bonaparte. And what I love about that, that's what I was thinking about when you were saying, I find the next thing to stress about. I'm using a different language. I'm hearing you as a, a visionary, as a person who is always seeing like where you are, you're always seeing forward, and like seeing like, what is my net, where am I leveling up again? And it's like, to me, that's like always being a creator, always being someone who's always growing. Right. So like, that's what you're describing. And I always have to throw in the neuroscience about it, because basically, and this is like what I always want to scream from the rooftops. I wish I could like have a world megaphone. Like, you could probably develop that. I bet you could do that. But anyhow, that's your next endeavor. Like that we could like magnify to the whole world and tell them everything at once.
Yeah.
You're going to make that. Okay. I don't have the time, I don't think.
You have
many years ahead to do that. But anyhow, so what I want to scream is that I want to scream everybody to wake up, but because our operating system, our body is a habituated machine that is constantly just creating an automated thing in order to maintain homeostasis. And what you're doing is you're continually recreating, we can call it the machine, your mind, your thoughts, your feeling state, because, we become addicted to the feelings we feel the most.
Yeah.
And if we don't move out of that, we'll stay comfortable in that. Right. And if we stay with the thoughts, which, you've heard it, you hear Ed say it or whatever, but it's like, if we keep reliving that thought loop, we're never going to move forward. And it sounds like you're always creating that new, that new thought. And what I want to just say to people is that we have an opportunity. I think that a lot of, not just younger generation, like people, like all ages now, it's like, well, it is what it is. I would like to just strangle the next person who says that. Like,
I hate that.
What does that even mean? It is what it is. Like, what the fuck?
I do hate that saying.
That means like, here, let me show you my neck so I don't have to do a damn thing. I can sit on the couch for the rest of the year. I mean, really? No, it's what we make it. We are creators. And that's what I see you as, is like, it's almost like I heard somebody say that the level of success that someone is how many problems they've solved. So it's like, every time, that's what I tell people who work here, like every time a problem shows up, a situation, a baby system is born, and then you overcome that and that and that and that. And the more you're moving, the faster you're moving. And I think that creates stress too, Dalton, because moving. Oh, there's a problem. You're going to like overcome this. So they come at you faster when you're moving faster too. Mm-hmm. I have to tell you, you're like a man among men. You got some shit going on that, like, I feel like I would love to like pick a topic and have you come on here again and like talk about it. Cause I think you have a lot to say. You are like smart, but humble, but also not humble. Like you're humble, but humble is confident. So let me not mess that up.
Yeah. I definitely, I don't want to come off as arrogant. I think early on in my career, there were probably times where I came off as arrogant. And I always try to check myself, when it comes to that, because I don't want to give people that vibe. I would say that I'm humble because I know where I came from, and I still value my people, which are people like my family and just rural, down home people. Those are my people. And they always will be. That'll always be home for me. no matter what. But I know I know that I'm capable of things, and I know that I don't think the same way as those people. And I have accomplished things that a lot of people have not accomplished, and even that have been in my industry for 20, 30 years. And so I have the confidence of knowing that, like, I can perform, but I don't think that my high performance or the amount of money that I make or anything like that, I don't think that it gives me a badge to be a better human being than other people at all. And so that, I think that's kind of the image that I try to have, or that I want to have. But yeah, there's definitely, I'm confident in my ability to produce business or to perform challenging things. I enjoy challenges. And so, yeah.
You know, I'll tell you what you're describing. I think that we are also, I'm going into society again. I think we're in a society that has mislabeled confidence and mislabeled, it's a lack of identity of what really confidence is. And confidence is not cocky. To me, knowing who you are, knowing your value and your skills, you sound very clear, and maybe not 100%. I don't know you personally, but I can tell that you know the skills that you have. And is there some reason, and I want to pose this question to people who are listening, is there some reason why we're not supposed to know that or talk about that? That doesn't make any sense to me. I
think that it's the world we live in. Now, I made a Facebook post yesterday on my personal page about, you know, when I go to conferences like I went to last week, people will come up to me, other people in my industry, and they'll be like, you know, what do you do? Like, how do you do this or that or whatever? And it is such a compliment when people ask me questions or seek advice from me, because I'm 29 years old. I am nobody. Like, I don't even think they realize that, but it feels really good. I feel like Tony Robbins or somebody like that when they come up to me and ask questions. But on the other hand, it is annoying, because I know, first off, you're not going to like what I tell you. You want to be successful, work 15 hours a day and drain other things in your life that aren't as important as that. Go. Not the answer you wanted to hear. And number two, you're not going to take my advice. You're going to go ask somebody else and see if they've got a magic button. And if they don't, you're going to go Google this and see if Google has a magic button. You're not actually just going to do the work and take the advice. And so I'm basically made a post about that. And, you know, I got a comment, not on the post, but somebody did comment, was like, yeah, it came off as a little like, I do all this stuff and whatever. And I was like, I don't mean it to sound like that. What I'm saying is, like, focusing on things that I want to accomplish in my life and business, and having a certain, like, my physique and things like that, they're just really important to me. They have changed the course of my life, like, completely. Things 90% of America worries about, I do not give a crap about. A rock could fall on my Nissan right now and crush it. And if insurance didn't cover it, I'd be like, all right, I'd write a $30,000 check and just buy another Nissan. And then I would go to my next meeting. I'm not saying that to throw it in people's face. I'm saying that because I'm like, that was something that was important to me 6 years ago. And I've worked my fingers to the bone to try to create that life for my family. And anybody can do that. I'm not a savant. I'm just someone who really knew what they want. And I go after things that I really want. And once I decide that something's going to happen, it's a wrap. You can try to stop it. I'm psychopathic. I will make it happen. And that's just how I am. And so I think the message I was trying to get across is not that I'm great. It's just that you're great and you don't even know it. Yeah. Because you fall for the narrative of, like, man, I wish I looked like that. Just by saying that, you're subconsciously telling yourself that it's all up to chance, that you don't even have control over how you look. And you don't even realize that the words you say feed that inability to actually accomplish stuff. or man, it must be nice to do this. You can do that. But the fact that you say out loud, it must be nice, your brain hears that and you're like, oh, I'm incapable of that. So yeah, it must be nice.
I'll tell you
Why don't
something.
you ask me like, hey, how'd you do that? Or hey, how'd you do this? And I'll tell you, and then you follow that and then you do it.
Listen, you are unbelievable because you know what? You are like singing my song. Okay. Basically, the decision is a power move.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it's basically. You have just commanded your body to do what it should do, and it does it. Our brain is a goal-driven machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? This thing that you're saying that anybody could do stuff, I love that about you. I love that you're a role model like that. I think it is incredible, really. And I usually will talk more. All I want to do is hear you talk because you're sending a message out that really, honestly, our world needs to hear. We really, the way I look at it is that the thing that I want to shout from the rooftops is that we all have the power within us. You know, the thing with Dorothy, you know, with Glinda, I always talk about, you have the power within you, dear. Like we do. Yeah. And and I'm saying this and then we got to go because we're busy people. But the bottom line is that when I hear people say, I wish or I want, to me, that is just a state of lack. It's separating yourself from the thing that you're wishing for. It's saying it's too far from me, or it's not something that I have any control over. And it's not true. So,
right.
Yes.
I remember.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I remember as a kid one time, I was probably 6th, 7th grade. And I remember I was venting to my mom. We used to go on these walks when I was a kid, and I used to love doing that. And you know, I used to go to my mom for comfort, and I would go to my dad if I wanted like the hardcore truth. And I remember one time my mom gave me the hardcore truth, and I was like, wait, that's not how this goes. And like, I went to her and I was just like, yeah, I'm just so tired of looking like this. And I feel like because I didn't look the way I wanted to look, I felt like I was one step behind everybody else as soon as I walked out of the door in the morning. And so she said, instead of being like, oh, honey, you're this, or God just made you that way or something, she said, you know what? Yes, you're big. And I wish that I could take that away, but I can't. And if there's ever something you don't like about yourself, only you can change it. And I was like, damn. And I was like, all right, well, then that's what I got to do. I didn't feel this hopelessness like, you know, well, I just was made that way. I wasn't made that way. I evolved that way. I watched it happen. And I knew that I had things in my life that I was doing to look that way. All I had to do was stop doing those things, and I'd probably look and feel way better. And yes, it took discipline. Yes, it was extremely hard, and it took a lot of time. And I've been bodybuilding for 10 years at this point. And so this has not been an overnight thing, and business has not been an overnight thing. Lots of bad days, meltdowns. But conceptually, it's actually pretty easy. You know, like you eat less food and then you exercise. Literally it. That's the secret.
That's it.
If it's spilled. And then you don't cheat on your diet. And then in business, you learn every ounce of your business and you pour yourself into it and you try to work as hard as possible and you make the right decisions and kind of stacks together. But it's the discipline of doing that every day that I think trips people up. But yes, you have a lot more control than you think you have over your 100%. Life.
You know, and like the incremental moves create exponential results. It's like I always tell people if you're building a mountain, the first teaspoon of dirt on the ground is not any less powerful than the one on the top. They're the same. And it's just, you know, step at a time. But you remind me, I'm thinking you probably read the book, The One Thing.
I've not read that.
Yeah, it's an amazing. I just really love the book so much. And basically you sound so much like what he's describing, but it's a great book. But because I love this guy, but basically he just describes if you want to be anything ever in your life, you have to hone in on the one thing. And he describes like that. I don't remember the actual numbers, but it's something like 10,000 moves in this one area is what it requires to be like an expert at something. And he's just described, it's just incredible. And we get so lost in the static of everything around us. We're putting a million fires out all around us when there's one burning in the middle of the room that could change our whole life. And it's like, so I really feel like this message right here of, slow and steady, but power, is like really what people need to hear. All of us, like we have to wake the fudge up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you will, but I think you will. I think you'll come back on my podcast. Will you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I did it publicly. So you'd have to say yes in front of everyone.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Absolutely.
Because I don't really ever ask anybody to do that. But I think that we could pick a topic, like one thing, and you really would help like a lot of people because I think that this message of always finding comfort and ease is destroying, our culture.
It is. I would add on to one thing we talked about earlier is like something I would tell the younger generation or just anybody wanting to make a change is whatever you do try to do. In personal training, they say the key to, what plan is the best? There is no best plan.
Yeah.
The best plan is the one that somebody's going to adhere to.
Yep.
And in business, the best business is something you like to do. I've seen people come into our industry and they hate it. And I'm like, you might as well leave now because I don't even work. I don't have a job. I play every day.
Yep.
It's fun to me. I'm addicted to it. And so I'll work 12 hours a day because it's not even work. I'm like, I just played for 12 hours. That was great. If you think it's work, you're toast. Go do something that is playing for you or that's fun for you and you'll stick to it. And you'll be interested in it. You'll learn everything about it. You'll be the expert. Be better than everybody else.
You know what? That right there. If you got anything today, which I know you got a lot, take that, put that in your pipe and smoke it, people. Because that right there, that's going to change your life. All of us need to hear that. I need to hear that when I get like all like drained over shit that's stupid. Like really, like why not just freaking like we have this life that we just like throw in the toilet. It's such bullshit. Okay, so we have to go because I actually have to catch a plane. So listen, I am so honored to know you. I'm grateful that you took the time to be here. Could you just tell people where they can find you? I am sure that you help people with their money, obviously. I want you to help me with my damn money and don't start calling me and cold calling me because it's going to piss me off. But anyhow, I'm just kidding. So tell people where they can find you and whatever you want to tell them.
Absolutely. So I do, for like speaking or for podcasts and stuff like that, I do have a new personal website. It's thedaltoncampbell.com. I guess another me left the D off before I could buy it, but thedaltoncampbell.com. And that should have, a little bit about me. You can contact me there. There's a special email just for that. Feel free to ask me random questions. I do a Facebook Live every Friday if you're my Facebook friend. And I'm probably
live. What is it? What's the live about? How come I didn't know that?
It's a Q&A. So people literally just give me questions throughout the week and I just stack them all up. And on Fridays at 8:30 Eastern, I answer them all. And sometimes it's 10 minutes and sometimes it's an hour. And I just kind of go into it, kind of like this podcast. So I do that. I'll probably transition those to my stories though at some point, so it can be on Instagram too. But for now, Facebook Live. So feel free to friend me on Facebook, I guess.
And how do they find you on Facebook? Just your name?
I don't even know. Yeah, it would be just my name.
I could look it up, but we're going to put it in the show notes anyhow. And also I'm good. You never should have told me that because I have questions and they're going to be anonymous. You don't say my name.
So I will not. I never say anyone's name.
Good.
So I'll answer those. And then, on the business side, I typically, our industry is such a compliance heavy industry. So I don't really mix the business stuff, but if you do a little bit of Googling, you could probably find me in my professional life, and feel free to reach out. And if you do have questions that are financial related, you want to set something up, I'm happy to take those topics onto more of a compliant professional platform and answer those. I just have to please the powers that be,
Of course.
if you understand. So,
yeah.
But yeah, that's the best ways. The Swole Advisor is my Instagram handle. And
Swole?
so the Swole Advisor, swole like a bodybuilder. And
I've
so
seen that. I didn't know that was you. Okay.
Oh, you've
That's
seen
good.
that?
I have. I think I'm
Okay.
following you.
Oh,
I am.
Cool.
I think
Okay.
you're following me, and you better be if you're not. I'll make sure you do.
Well, I will. So
okay, do it.
Yeah, so that's the Instagram. So yeah, I'm pretty easy to connect with if you follow that or just do a little bit of digging. So I really appreciate the opportunity to have me on, and I'm glad that you think it will add value. And I want to do as much of this as possible. So thank you.
I think it'll really add value to even, just a lot of the younger people. I think it's really cool. So I really thank you so much, Dalton. It's just an absolute pleasure. I look forward to more conversations with you.
Yes, for sure.
All right. Take care, everybody. Crush mediocrity. Don't live that way.